the FBI let a congressional hacking suspect flee the country. Not clear why, even after she was caught trying to board a plane with a likely illegal amount of cash. Imran Awan is awaiting trial on charges of fraudulent procurement and bank fraud, but he may also have hacked the computers of numerous House Democrats. Thanks to an FBI blunder, though, his wife is safe at this moment in Pakistan. Luke Rosiak broke that story for the Daily Caller News Foundation, which is a nonprofit that shares a name similar to a website I once started and owned shares in, but no longer run. There's my disclosure. He joins us tonight. Hey, Luke.
Hey, Chuck.
So, boil this down for us. Why is this a big deal?
So this is the pattern that we've seen time and again, where the DOJ and the FBI have evidence of crimes, and particularly in cases involving Democrats and the politically connected, and then there's just no charges. And it's stuff that everyone knows. If the average Joe were to do this stuff, they're going right to jail.
So what would be the charges in this case that are not being filed?
So the House Inspector General found before the 2016 election that these guys made unauthorized access to House data. They were impersonating members of Congress. They were funneling data off the House network. They were covering their tracks. The House tried to block them. They found ways around it. This is malicious intent. This is hacking. This is cyber infiltration. And so the House Inspector General spent 6 months putting together this report, whole team of government investigators, and they conclude that they're doing all these things. So put yourself in the context of it's before the election, the DNC were dealing with the hack of that, and these government investigators bring this investigation to the FBI on a silver platter. And it basically says these guys infiltrated Congress. They made unauthorized access.
They worked for Debbie Wasserman Schultz at the time.
Yeah, so the issue is they worked for a number of Democratic members of Congress, but they were accessing data that they had no business accessing, and they were taking data off the network, doing a bunch of other really scary things.
So is there any chance they'll be charged? Or do you know why they're not being charged?
Well, and that's the big question here. So this happened before the election. So what does the FBI do? They put literally a first-year agent on the case. And we're talking, this is the same pattern of the DNC hack. We've got potential foreign meddling, but we've got a cyber breach. And they put a junior guy on the case. He watches them, and basically the IG report pinpoints this particular server on the House as ground zero of the hack. That server is stolen from out underneath the nose of the FBI. And the FBI still doesn't make an arrest. They surveil this guy. They watch him move hundreds of thousands of dollars to Pakistan. They follow his wife to the airport, watch her board the plane, and basically wave goodbye. So they've made no arrest, and they're going to be in court next Thursday. And they've tried to be vague about this whole thing, but the fact is, I've seen the IG report, the DOJ has the IG report, and the FBI has the IG report. If you have seen that IG report, you cannot conclude anything other than that these guys infiltrated Congress, they made unauthorized access to data. It's the kind of thing where criminal charges, there's no way around it.
You might almost say they hacked our democracy, but you're the only one who is saying that. Weird. Luke Rosiak, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I think it's a real story, a big one. In 2016, both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama said it was impossible to hack American elections. Today, though, Hillary Clinton accused President Trump of, quote, surrender to Russia, with whom she apparently thinks we're at war, by not doing more to stop Russian interference. Philippe Reines is a longtime Russia hunter, an enemy of the Kremlin, also a former Hillary Clinton advisor. He worked with her at State and other places. He joins us tonight. So, Philippe, how is Trump, like, what exactly specifically should Trump be doing against the Russians right now?
Well, let me try it this way. Let's forget about 2016. Let's assume that he won 50 states, 535-0. She came out of her voting booth and said, you know what, he's so great, I voted for him. Nothing happened in 2016. Let's assume for a moment that Donald Trump's CIA director, his director of national intelligence, and his director of the NSA testified before Congress and told him, presumably, that North Korea was attempting and planning on disrupting our elections in 2018 as a precursor to 2020. And they were doing so with the intent of disrupting the incumbents, and they might hurt House members who are incumbents. What conversation we would be having then?
I guess I would. Here's, like, I've been here most of my life. I don't really care what a lot of people in Washington say because they're dishonest and stupid.
Well, for a moment, let's stipulate.
You know, you really telling me that Russia, which has a contracting economy and population and position on the world stage, a single military base outside its own borders, is a graver threat to the United States than China, or even in the
well, first off, I don't think it's whack-a-mole. They could both be significant adversaries.
We're not talking at all. We're sucking up to China. Our business sector, our entertainment sector, our political sector, all kowtow toward China.
I'm not defending China.
No, but I'm just saying, like, what we're hearing from the Democratic left is that the existential threat to the country is from Russia, and the facts don't show that. It's insane, actually.
The intelligence show and it's intelligence presented by Donald Trump's appointees, Republican appointees, that they are going to interfere with our 2018 election.
How exactly are they going to do that?
They've done it a number of ways. First of all, we've now learned that they got into the registration rolls of 7 states prior to election day.
So how do you imagine? I mean, look,
how did they get into Sony? I mean, the North Koreans got into Sony.
I mean, it's like a serious question.
I mean, you and I can't talk about how someone does or doesn't hack anything.
Hold on. Democrats have pushed
after talking about 2 people who got into the DNC.
Look, I'm against foreign hacking. China is the primary.
So what should we be doing?
We never mentioned that. Democrats have pushed for years online voting because they think it will increase their share of the turnout because it makes it easy and their voters don't like to get out of bed and go to the polls. So how can they still...
I'm nodding, but I don't agree with that.
Okay, but how can they still be pushing for online voting if we face this hacking threat from foreign countries? Why wouldn't we just use paper ballots?
I don't think this is as simple as online voting. Who in the United States...
But that's not more vulnerable than paper ballots?
Who in the United States is in charge of protecting us against China? Interfering with our elections, even if it's hard, even if it's going to fail. Who's in charge?
Well, presumably you would think our captains of industry, of entertainment, Silicon Valley, our military, our
Who's in charge of fighting opioids?
I don't know. I mean,
Kellyanne Conway.
Okay.
Look. Why wouldn't there be a White House coordinator?
But what would he do? I guess that's what I'm saying.
Or she.
Okay,
well,
I'm actually using the broadly accepted pronoun that can stand for either one.
But let's just say it was Mike Pence for a moment.
Right.
What he would do is he would do a number of things. First of all, he would take a whole-of-government approach. But specifically, you hit a good point, which is that this also involves the private sector. This involves Facebook. This involves Google. He could bring people together and they could share best practices.
The first thing you would do is you would say no electronic voting, because it's vulnerable to foreign hacking. Yet Democrats are pushing electronic. Yes, you would. Of course, any system.
I have a better source than you. I wouldn't.
No, I have better sources, and also I have common sense, which trumps all, which tells you that any system in which electronic data transfers between 2 points is vulnerable to hacking.
Yeah, but all voter rolls are electronic already.
Okay, but voting itself in states with paper ballots is safer than those that have electronic voting. Yet Democrats are pushing for electronic voting, even though they claim Russia's going to hack the election. How can that be?
I think we were talking about
we're talking about the same thing. No, we're talking about the same thing.
Oranges.
Our democratic vulnerabilities.
That argues for the next 100 years to use paper as opposed to making sure our voting systems are.
Oh, because I gave you a specific thing that we can do to harden our democracy, and you laugh because it might hurt Democrats.
I didn't laugh. You said it's the first thing I wanted to do.
It's the obvious thing, but no one wants to do it.
But let's set aside hacking. Let's just use the word screwing around or interfering.
20 seconds, hit me with it.
If it's interfering.
Yeah.
Let's just say they can't do it. Let's just say they're bad at it. Let's forget about 2016. I know you got the people over here in the Nothing Burger camp, and you got the people over here in the Double Whopper with cheese camp. What should we be doing that we're not? And it seems that the people in charge of protecting us do not think we're doing enough.
Okay. Well, then I think every Democrat in Congress should do, and every Republican, to suspend all electronic voting until we can be sure the Russians can't hack it. That way we can have total confidence in the entire
Why do we bank?
Why
don't we just go back to the fax machines and carrier pigeons?
We're not so worried about Russia all of a sudden. I love this. This is so
I'm the one worried. You're the one
talking to people. All right.
You do the Russia, the China bowl over here.
Great to see you.
Always fun.
Former Secret Service agent, you know him, former NYPD officer and host of the Dan Bongino Show. Dan, welcome. Appreciate you being here this morning.
You're our most alpha male guest today.
I watched that segment. I was horrified. Listen, there's a cure for this beta maleism, you know? Get out there, do some darn manual labor, start deadlifting, get in a mixed martial arts class. If you're chop some wood like Sean, get out there and do some soul purifying manual labor. It'll cure you of beta maleism tomorrow.
All right, deadlifting.
Speaking of purifying the soul, let's talk a little bit about Susan Rice and what happened at the end of the Obama administration. And now this book is coming out and saying that part of the Obama cybersecurity team went to her and said, we want to go after Russia. This whole deal that Democrats are now saying, this is a threat to our democracy. Why isn't more being done by the Trump administration? The Obama administration wanted to do something, and Susan Rice said no.
Ed, Obama himself gave a pre-2016 election speech. It's out there for anyone to see on YouTube, where he downplayed the Russian threat. He said, listen, our elections are decentralized. No reasonable person thinks the Russians are going to hack an election. Obama himself said this. So what is it, Democrats? What's the story? Are the Russians the biggest hostile geopolitical threat to the United States since our inception? Or are they just a minor player that's not going to be able to impact our elections? What story is it? There seems to be no media curiosity about this at all because they just want to attack Trump and make him look bad.
Who do you think is the most important person that helped make that pivot from the Russians don't matter and couldn't affect our elections to they're the most significant thing that we face and Donald Trump colluded with them? At what moment and what person flipped that switch or tried to?
I think after the election, the Obama team needed to cover their tracks. Who specifically, outside of the man himself, Barack Obama? I'm not sure. I know John Brennan's a major player in this. But, Pete, I have absolutely no doubt that, listen, I've done a lot of homework on this. I'm almost done with my book on it, as a matter of fact, that the Trump team was framed, that they were set up. This is not in dispute, by the way, what I'm about to tell you. You know that game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, where everything gets back to Kevin Bacon or something? They should call this game 6 Degrees of Hillary Clinton. Look at every single source of information, negative information about the Trump team and their so-called collusion that didn't happen. Every single source is somehow connected to Hillary Clinton or somebody Hillary Clinton and her team.
Andrew McCabe.
I challenge you to find me another one.